execution.
La ley de amparo, exhibición personal y de constitucionalidad.
The right of constitutionality as an important judicial instrument
para la defensa de los derechos constitucionales.
for the defense of constitutional rights.
Estipula dicha ley
That law stipulates
que no hay ámbito que no sea susceptible de amparo,
that there is no place that is not susceptible to protection
y procederá siempre
and shall always proceed
contra todo acto,
against all acts,
resolución,
resolutions,
ley
laws
que tergiverse,
that will contradict,
disminuya
minimize,
o violente derechos fundamentales del ser humano.
or violate fundamental human rights.
La acción de amparo se presenta ante los propios tribunales
Protection is presented through the courts
que conocen en lo que la doctrina llama
that know the doctrine,
control difuso constitucional
control constitutional,
y procede contra los propios jueces,
and possesses
Corte de Apelaciones,
courts of appeals,
Corte Suprema de Justicia,
Supreme Court of Justice,
Congreso de la República,
the Congress of the Republic,
y procede también contra toda autoridad administrativa
and it can proceed likewise against any administrative authority,
incluyendo al presidente y vicepresidente de la República.
including the President himself and the Vice President of the Republic.
Por ello, la acción de amparo es un instrumento importante
Because of that, the Acción de Amparo or the Protection Act is important,
que en Guatemala debemos de fortalecer.
that in Guatemala we always try to fortify.
Por aparte,
On the other hand,
con el apoyo del Banco Mundial,
with the help of the World Bank
se ha implementado el programa,
that has implemented the program
igual que en Argentina,
of Justice on Wheels,
de la justicia sobre ruedas.
of Justice on Wheels.
Y es que en efecto
And this, in effect,
es una justicia sobre ruedas,
and is a real justice on wheels,
porque caminan.
because it walks, it travels.
Se han habilitado vehículos automotores
We have invented automotive vehicles,
y se han habilitado oficinas dentro del mismo
and we have made offices inside these vehicles
con equipo de cómputo
with computation or internet equipment,
en donde va el juez de paz,
and wherever the justice of the peace goes,
especialista en mediación,
he specializes in mediation
con auxiliares judiciales
with judicial auxiliaries
que llegan a los lugares más lejanos de la ciudad,
that reaches the most remote places of the country,
que llegan a los lugares más pobres,
that reach the poorest places,
donde las personas no tienen dinero,
where persons have no money,
ni siquiera para tomar un autobús,
not even money enough for autobus fare or bus fare,
y llegar a la sede de la justicia.
in order to reach to where the seat of justice is found.
Por eso la justicia debe llegar a su casa,
That's why justice on wheels reaches their homes,
para que tengan acceso a ella.
so that they will have access to justice.
Finalmente deseo manifestarles
Finally, I decide to manifest
que la misión del organismo judicial de Guatemala
that the mission of this organism in Guatemala
es la administración de justicia pronta y cumplida.
is the administration of swift and well-delivered justice.
Porque una justicia lenta no es justicia.
Because a justice that is distant is not justice.
Y porque estamos convencidos que debemos fortalecer el Estado de Derecho.
And because we are convinced that we have to strengthen the state of justice and rights.
Porque el Estado de Derecho permite
Because the state of rights
la libertad
produces
y la igualdad.
liberty, equality.
Gracias por permitirme estar con ustedes. Buenas tardes.
Thank you for permitting me to talk to you. Good afternoon.
Thank you very much, Judge Aldana, for sharing with us the Guatemalan experience. And she stressed that after the political upheaval in Guatemala, they hit the ground running, established an effective justice system, and introduced judicial reforms with the help of World Bank and other development partners. And she stressed the need to promote, safeguard, and enhance individual rights of individuals in Guatemala. And she discussed the operations of Justice on Wheels, which is a successful experiment on access to justice. So on behalf of the Philippine Judiciary, we extend our profuse thanks to our presenters for providing us with their perspectives on the judiciary's role in advancing liberty and enhancing prosperity in their countries. I am sure that they have imparted valuable lessons and models which may be of great use to our delegates for study, formulation of policies, and possible use and implementation in their respective countries. Again, our heartfelt gratitude. At this point, to show our appreciation, we will request our Chief Justice Artemio P. Pacaniban to join us on stage to personally give out to our presenters certificates of appreciation. After the award.
Let me just say a few words about our speakers. You know, this certificate of appreciation is very formalistic. It's just a piece of paper between two hard-bound covers. But more than that, I'd like to say a few words about our speakers. First, about Mr. Chief Justice. He's really called President of the People's Supreme Court of the Russian Federation. You know, Chief Justice Lebedev is a longtime friend of the Philippines. Believe it or not, it's all right, listen. Believe it or not, he has been to this country 4 times. 4 times. This is his 4th visit to the Philippines. During these times of visit, we have developed close friendship with the Russian judiciary. Of course, he has also invited us there. We have exchanged judges. But more than that, he is, I think, President, that's how he's called, President Lebedev's love for our country. He loves a very special drink in the Philippines. We call it Tanduay rum. And he comes back for that all the time. So, before he leaves, I'll give him a case of Tanduay rum. But I'd like to thank him now because although he intended to stay until the end of our conference, he told me earlier that he has to leave tonight because of an emergency that he has to attend to in Moscow. But we would like to thank him not only because he honors us by his presence, but because even if the Philippines is a small country, a small developing country, he has honored us by inviting some of us not only to visit Russia, but to render technical assistance to the judiciary of Russia, believe it or not. So he has invited Justice Antonio Carpio, he has left already, who spoke at noontime for our Supreme Court, because he said, you have a nice electronic library in the Philippines. I would like Mr. Justice Carpio, who heads our Committee on Computerization, to visit us in Russia and show us how to develop an electronic library. And he did go to Moscow, and he did help the Russian Federation, the judiciary of the Russian Federation, to establish electronic library in Russia. So too, she mentioned, I would like Evelyn Dundum, our head of our Judicial Reform Office in the Supreme Court, to help us set up our Judicial Reform Office. And so Evelyn Dundum went to Moscow, met the Chief Justice, and helped set up an independent Judicial Reform Office of the Judiciary. For this, Mr. Chief Justice, honoring us not only by your presence, honoring us not only with an exchange of judges, but making us feel that we are not a junior partner in our judicial collaboration, but mutual partners, whether rich or poor, big or small. Thank you very much. Spasiba. I'd like to say a few words also about Antonio Meloto. You know, on August 31 this year, I was requested to preside over the awarding ceremonies of the Ramon Magsaysay Awards. That's the Asian equivalent of the Nobel Prize. And 6 Asians were given this award this year on August 31, the year 2006. I was thoroughly impressed by all the 6 awardees because of their selfless concern for the poor. But I was most impressed by Gawad Kalinga, the organization that's headed by Antonio Meloto, because it is a private organization that has succeeded very quietly in enabling our very, very poor people, those who do not have any money, to even hope on how to build their houses, by telling them that if they help themselves, the community will help them. And he has been able to instill this, what we call bayanihan, working together in the community. And because of his effort, he has been able to build over 200,000 communities, not just houses, but communities in the Philippines. Very quietly, as I said, because there was not much publicity before the award. I was so impressed that I begged him to please come to our Global Forum on Liberty and Prosperity, because this is one way of transform or informing our judges, our chief justices, judges, about how, with the effort of the private sector, the civil society, we are able to get our act together and alleviate poverty on the road to prosperity. To Antonio Meloto, I would like to express our thanks for his coming and honoring us. You know, Judge Sandra Oxner has been in the Philippines many, many times because she has helped us set up our Philippine Judicial Academy. What is outstanding about Judge Oxner is that she was a judge, but she resigned because she wanted to volunteer in setting up a judicial institute, first in Canada and then all over the world. What's amazing, I said, is that it is a volunteer institute of retired judges who are not paid, who do this as a labor of love. Judge Oxner has helped us set up our own Philippine Judicial Academy, and not only the physical facilities, but more importantly the courses and curriculum of our Judicial Academy. She also is responsible for the many judges, Filipino judges, who have gone to the Commonwealth Judicial Institute in Halifax to study. I myself has gone there 4 years ago, it was. No? And I was so impressed. I said, what volunteerism, what love for judicial education can there be than to retire from one's career as a judge and devote full time to something voluntary. I'd like you to know, Judge Oxner, because of your help, we will be able to build soon our physical facilities in the Philippine Judicial Academy, because the Japanese government has given us 300 million pesos, that's equivalent to about $6 million this year, because of this effort that the Japanese government has seen in our trying to build our Judicial Academy. A lot of that effort is due to you. Thank you very much. That's all. Yes, Judge Aldana, we haven't met, but I have been to your country. Judge Aldana was talking about how the Guatemalan Republic has been able to find peace after many, many years, 30 years of infighting. They signed the peace treaty in 1989, el 1989. And some of my fellow justices, led by my esteemed predecessor, Chief Justice Davide and Justice Adolf Ascuna over there, were invited to visit Guatemala 2 years ago. And we were shown some of the projects that the World Bank supported in Guatemala. One of them indeed is the Justice on Wheels project. We were so impressed and we said, this is the way to enable our poor people to have access to justice, not by making them walk or take a bus or by any means go to the town center and file their cases. We were impressed by this bus that we copied it. You may not know it. We now have these buses. Tomorrow, I will have the bus parked in front of the hotel so you can see it. We copied it in your model. The bus has a little sala where the judge has a little table, and it has also an adjacent little room for mediation, because we thought that the small people in the villages, especially the women, the young children, the juvenile in conflict with the law, as we call them, cannot go to the centers of the urban centers and file their cases. And as you said, we bring the courthouses to the poor instead of the poor going to the courthouses. Tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen, you will be able to view this unique Justice on Wheels program, mobile courts, that we copied from Guatemala. It will be brought here in the morning, and you may want to look at it as a way of serving the poor, giving access to justice to the very poor. For allowing us to copy your experiment on access to justice for the poor and for your presence here, we'd like to give you this certificate of appreciation. Muchas gracias. speakers this morning who were not given their awards according to our secretariat. First is Senor Fernando Pombo. I think I already said a few things about Don Fernando, and I said I visited him in his office in Madrid after Justice Kennedy of the U.S. Supreme Court recommended that I go to Madrid and visit him. That was last May. And while he doubted whether he could make it because of the short notice, he really tried his best. And I hope that you are not disappointed by what you have seen and what you have heard, but we are certainly grateful that you are here. And this certificate of appreciation is but a paper expression of what is deep in our hearts. Thank you very much. Muchas gracias. Well, the Honorable Chan Seng-on, the Solicitor General of Singapore, is not here. Finally, Judge Justin. He is, please. This small, in terms of population and land size, state of Singapore is a model of prosperity in Asia. It's now a first world country because of their effort and success in being able to transform from a developing economy to a first world economy in about 15 years, was it? In 15 years. Last August, I was in Singapore because I was invited by the Chief Justice to look at your building, the brand new building of the Supreme Court of Singapore. It's called the Flying Saucer because it has a high-tech court that's rounded at the top of the building. It was built at the cost of 160 million Singapore dollars. 500 million Singapore dollars, which is about 250 million US dollars. Can you imagine a building that's to be built with 250 million US dollars for the Supreme Court of Singapore? It's a model not only of construction, but of high-tech facilities, because the court is completely computerized, high-tech. And I looked at we were shown the Supreme Court hearing room. It doesn't look like any of our traditional hearing rooms because it is built with terminals, computer terminals all over. And the courtroom, the judges are not even elevated like this, no? It's almost level. The judges are almost level with the lawyers. And the lawyers communicated not really verbally, but through their computers on their respective desks. The lawyers didn't bring any paper. They didn't bring any briefcases because their pleadings, which are in their own computers in the offices, are made online with the Supreme Court. So they needed any pleading of their own, all they needed to do was to access their own websites in their law offices. But more important, even the Supreme Court itself is fully computerized and all pleadings are submitted digitized. No more paper in Singapore. So I'm sorry that we'll have to give you some paper only. Paper certificate. Next time maybe, when we learn more from you, we'll give you a digitized certificate that will be sent to Singapore through electronic means. But in the meantime, we'll do it by paper. And Justice Dury of New Zealand. Justice Edward Taiwakuren Dury is a Maori. He represents the indigenous peoples of New Zealand in the High Court of New Zealand. I was in New Zealand in the year 2004, Justice Dury. I met, of course, your lady Chief Justice, Chief Justice Sian Elias, like Chief Justice McLaughlin, very effusive, very radiant, very intelligent, and I was very impressed. But I found out that you didn't have a Supreme Court at that time. Imagine, the progressive country of New Zealand didn't have a Supreme Court. But I found out that, after all, they were able to do their work without a Supreme Court. But recently, of course, you have your High Court, which is the equivalent of the Supreme Court. So they proved to me that perhaps it's not really the institutions that deliver justice, but the men and women behind the institution. I was asked by Justice Ian Richardson, who was then the head of your Court of Appeal, to visit the Court of Appeals in Wellington. And to my delight, he asked me to wear the red robe of the members of the Court of Appeal. He was then the presiding justice, the equivalent of the Chief Justice, of course. And I had a white wig, and I had a picture taken, of course, for my souvenir. But what impressed me was the fact that now you're not even wearing any robes, no? When the justices of the High Court, the Supreme Court of New Zealand hear cases, they don't wear robes. They wear ordinary suits. I was asking Justice Dury, why is that the case? Why is it that you have abandoned the British system of wearing robes, in fact, colorful robes? At that time, it was vermilion red. And he said, well, the information age has dawned on us, and we now practice more equality so that the lawyers are not afraid of us. That's something new, because we always want the lawyers to be afraid of us. But in New Zealand, they have brought the fortress down. The judiciary is not only transparent in an intellectual sense, it is also transparent in a very physical sense. And that's what impressed me, that the judiciary, after all, can be given a very human face and can be reached by the common people and no longer the Mount Olympus that it used to be. Well, thank you very much, Justice Dury, for your presence.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chief Justice Artemio V. Panganiban. And now, after the handing out of the certificates, we will have the brief open forum, and I'm authorized to entertain a few questions, 2 or 3, from the floor. Anybody would like to ask some questions from any of our panelists? I don't see any hands being raised. Okay, so I would like to thank all our panelists for the fine discourses that were given to the body. Thank you very much, and kindly go back to At this point, I now turn you over to our Master of Ceremonies, the charming and efficient Judicial Reform Program Administrator, Evelyn Toledo Tundum.
Thank you, Mr. Justice Velasco. Shall we give another big round of applause for all our moderators and plenary speakers? Your Honors, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, this brings to an official close the second day of the 2006 Global Forum on Liberty and Prosperity. And now may I make some administrative announcements. Tonight's dinner reception will be held at the Malacanang Palace in Manila at exactly 8 o'clock in the evening. 15 air-conditioned coasters will take all our delegates to Malacanang starting at 7 o'clock in the evening. Please proceed to the Rizal Ballroom side, and our ushers and usherettes will bring you to the air-conditioned buses for Malacanang. We will also have the official picture taking of all the heads of delegation with the Chief Justice of the Philippines and the Chair of the Forum, Justice Puno, and with our Supreme Court Justices at 6:30 tonight. Please come back to this hall wearing already your Barong Tagalog, and at 7 o'clock, we will all proceed to Malacanang. So those are the administrative announcements. Thank you very much, and we'll see you, the heads of delegation, at 6:30 in the evening here in this hall, already wearing your Barong Tagalog. Thank you. But don't forget, we need that for Malacanang. Okay. Chief Justice Beverly. Akin na po.
Sige.
Justice Susan, we have 4 more seats, so please have a wait. Yes, please.
Never mind yung height mo.
Ready? Ano? Sige. Okay.
I will do that now.
22 lang.
Okay.
Sige, can we remove the extra chairs?
Barong mo po.
Okay, okay.
Andali.
Ayun na. Ayun naman.
Yung ay... Hindi siya nakasama.
Andali, we'll have another one. Hold on, hold on.
Yes.
Okay, can we... Okay.
Ready? Okay. Smile. Okay.
Thank you very much, Your Honors. Please wear your heart.
Man alive, it starts when you blow away over your bed when you arrive. As the G.I.
เขาเป็นพวกสารด้วยมั้ยเป็นก็รุ่นเดียวผมตั้งแต่ก่อนแล้วก็เข้าศึกษาก็รุ่นเดียวกันนี่ครับ
Ja už som niečo za tebou, lebo som si vedela, že to až tak ja som prišla dole a pán
แต่สุรพลก็เป็นแค่วันนี้สบายมาสมัยหนึ่งแล้วก็มาเป็นเอกการhindi po siya pwede kasi pag malakas yung kailanganวันนี้คณะบัญชีก็หลายคนนะขึ้นมาเป็นในลงคะแนนเสียงก็ไปได้
Však to až začíná 8:30.
ลงไปสักหนึ่งต้องไหลเขาไปหาที่นั่นที่เดิมแต่รู้เรื่องกันAduh jadi emang saya ini solusi baru beri kartu. Napansin ko lang yung remaining minutes kasi pagdating sa
Ale počkaj, tretíkrát sa mi už podarilo. Tretíkrát mi zasvietilo.